Well, the greenhouse is filling up again, which is nice. I'm just going to do my early potatoes. I'm just potting them on, so they're looking quite good actually. These are the Vita Noir, and they're a second early. They're a purple one, and the nice thing about these is also blight resistant, so you can do a late crop of them as well. And I'll be doing that, so I'll be basically sowing these all the way through until sort of June, July time. And they're quite nice little plants. Started them about a month ago, so they're well rooted now, and yeah, they're off to a really great start. I've done 3 varieties early. I've done Swift, which are down there, and I've done Charlottes, which are down here, and these Vita Noir. So the idea being that the Swift come first. They should come ready about the very early in May, and so I've done a couple of weeks worth of those, maybe 3 weeks worth of those, and then I'm doing these Vita Noir. These should come ready sort of the middle of May, and then the Charlotte should come ready the very end of May, sort of early June sort of time. So that's the idea. So it gives me a nice sort of continuous harvest. And then I'll be using all the same pots that I've used for these and just potting up my next batch. I'll show you those in a minute. But they'll be ready basically as soon as the Charlottes finish. So they should come ready about the middle of June or thereabouts, and that gives us a nice continuous harvest because we will run out of last year's potatoes towards the end of April, that sort of time. I mean, strictly speaking, you could keep them a little bit longer, but by then we find the quality's just degrading, they're sprouting like crazy, and yeah, we're just ready for brand new potatoes really by then. So I'll just tell you quickly how I prepared these containers. So about this much of them, sort of 4 or 5 inches, is actually compost from last year's potato containers. I just reconditioned it with bloodfish and bone and a handful of Marshall's Organic Extra. And now I'm just going to... Oops, that's noisy. Fill this up. I normally do it by hand, to be fair, but it takes a long time by hand on camera, so it will be fine like this. The plants are pretty sturdy, to be honest. You're not really going to damage them as long as you're just, fairly careful and just kind of gradually get it down. I like to firm the outside edges in really well because that's where you tend to get water runoff, and it just goes down the sides of the containers, and you really don't end up getting very much water to the actual plants themselves. So my logic with early potatoes is always to sow the absolute minimum that you need. So as you can see, I am really just like sowing 2 weeks worth of Swift, and then as soon as the Swift finish, I've got 2 weeks worth of the Vita Noir, and as soon as they finish, I've just got 2 weeks of the Charlottes, and then the next batch will come, and it'll just be exactly the same cycle, and by then we'll just be harvesting traditionally started potatoes, just potatoes just dropped into a container and covered in compost to the top of the container, and just let them grow completely normally. But this method, it does give you substantially earlier crops. You know exactly what you're getting, you get your timings all right because you can see that the plants are, growing strongly, and yeah, it's just nice at this time of year to be sort of surrounded by things that are growing. It's really good fun. So yeah, one more batch done in little pots like this, and then just the way we normally do potatoes. And I've got a video actually on that. Just a little bit more. Most of the fertilizer goes into the bottom 4 or 5 inches, and then I just put a little bit more blood fish and bone at the top, which will kind of gradually just get washed down towards the roots. So my objective here is to have the leaves just showing for the Vita Noir and the Swift, because they're the ones that I want first. And the Charlottes I don't mind that they're not showing, because I've got more time for those. I put 3 tubers in for the Vita Noir and the Charlottes, and I put 2 tubers in for the Swifts, just to, I don't know, that's the way I've done it. So let's just get some new pots started, and I'll show you how we got to where we are now about a month ago. So I just put a couple of inches of multi-purpose compost in the bottom of the pots. And then I water the bottom of those pots. And once I've watered the pots, I just pop the potatoes in the bottom of the pots. And so they're resting in sort of really wet compost. And then I fill the pots, not quite full, like 2/3 full, just covering the top of the potato. A bit too much in that one. And then I water that so that the potato is surrounded by damp compost, and that's kind of necessary then to get the potatoes moving. You don't want them absolutely saturated though. Damp compost is good enough. And then I fill it with this compost, which is, it's moist-ish, but it's not wet. And I do this just because of fungus gnats, because I want the top surface of these potatoes to stay dry, because they're going in the house. And put them in the house because, again, I get really predictable results in terms of the time for them to break surface and grow on. And once they've all broken surface, then I put them under grow lights in the house for literally only about 4 days. It's not very long at all. And then they kind of really burst to life. And as soon as they're sort of about this sort of height, about the size of the ones in the video, then they're ready to get potted on. And by that time, all of these will be on the allotment. And I'll just pop them back down here. And it'll be about, let me think, when will it be? The end of the first week in March or thereabouts, maybe even a little bit earlier in March. So there'll be just enough time to give them sort of 3 or 4 weeks under grow lights in here before the peppers come in. So timing works quite nicely, and then we're off to the races. So that's the last ones, and there shouldn't be any need now to water these until you see the roots coming out the bottom of the trays, and then you can start bottom watering them. And it'd probably be about 10 days or thereabouts before they break surface. And as soon as they break surface, they need to obviously go under light. So either a sunny windowsill for another 5 or 6 days until they're sort of this sort of size. And then if you've got grow lights capacity spare, then just bung them under grow lights just for a few days, just to give them that extra bit of a boost. And if not, don't worry about it. No point chitting them at this time of year. They grow quite happily without chitting, as long as there's some sign of life, and then they're ready to go. And yeah, chitting's only really, there's two purposes I always think for chitting. The first is to give your early potatoes a quick start. Well, you don't really need to bother about quick starting when you're growing them like this, because obviously you've already got a quick start. And the second reason is you're chitting them basically to stop them getting long, spindly stems. So basically to keep them healthy, basically. There's not a lot of issues with accelerating growth for your second earlies and main crops, and late crops. They're all fine without it, but as I say, it's a useful thing to do anyway, just to keep the plants, the tubers, healthy. So we've got them all there, all ready to go, and I'm just going to give them a bit of a water now, just to clean the leaves, just to maximise photosynthesis, and then we'll be off. And I do have a growing guide that goes through all the different ways that I grow potatoes, and you'll find a link to that down in the description below, along with the links to all my other growing guides.